Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and we are back in, I think many would say, an uncomfortable situation that we find ourselves in as Spurs fans right now, where I say this in footballing terms, I feel like I'm watching the demise and the death of my football club in my eyes at the moment. That's the only way I can describe it. I'm literally numb. I'm sad. And I'm pretty heartbroken by where this football club is right now. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart when I say this. I know the guys feel the same here. That it wasn't for the thousands and thousands of Spurs fans that get in touch and say how much they absolutely love this show, I'm not sure whether we could all be here to go through this, because it is really, really testing right now. And you can understand everybody's frustration, whether that's towards the hierarchy, and we'll come on to them. Don't get started on that. We know we're going to go with them. Ange Postecoglou, the players, everything surrounding Tottenham right now. There is so much frustration. There is so much anger. And football is meant to be fun. It ain't fun at the moment. We're not happy. And this is so tough. It is so tough. I want to say a massive thank you to every single person watching, listening to Last Word on Spurs. We love you very much out there for joining us. I'm joined by Compere, the wonderful Richard Cracknell, who's been with me for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Cracks, loving you very much. I'm joined by actor TJ Ramini, who many turn to at the point of just trying to comprehend where we are with Tottenham as a football club. I'm joined by the superb Marlon over at the Spurs Kings, that always brings great emphasis and great value to this show, and why we're pleased to have him. And all I can say to you out there is thank you so much for anybody finding the stomach right now to tune into anything more Tottenham coverage than what they are doing and they're putting through us right now. And I will say this at the very, very top of the show. I want you to share this show to a wide range Spurs audience, because I mean this from the bottom of my heart. We are going to discuss a lot of the things that maybe people don't think we do discuss in much more detail and go even further than people might think we are going to go. So I want you to like, subscribe to the show, and push it out to the wide Spurs audience you can possibly do so. Let's get in to the match facts and the stats, as we are here to discuss, dissect Tottenham 1, Leicester City 2, Spurs 15 shots on target to Leicester's 12, 6 shots for Spurs to Leicester's 3, 22 touches to Leicester's 25 in the box. And this is, I think, again, is very quite telling when I read out the rest of these stats for listeners on audio here on how we're beaten by a lot of these stats. 9 tackles from Tottenham to Leicester's 23, 17 clearances from Tottenham to Leicester's 30, 8 interceptions to Leicester's 12, 60 recoveries to Leicester's 62. Tottenham dominating the possession 61% to 39%, and the XG 1.09 to 1.69. And can I just say, Spurs ended that game with less XG than the opposition's 38-year-old striker in Jamie Vardy. Let that sink in if you can. I mean, look, whilst I say I'm delighted to be joined by these wonderful people, they're, as I'm sure, despondent as we all are being Spurs fans right now. But Cracks, I always turn to you to kick us off on Last Word on Spurs whenever you come first. I know, look, many look to you as the Spurs fan base as someone that will not shy away, will tell it as it is. And that is what we'll try and do on this Last Word on Spurs. Look, Spurs 1, Leicester 2. A big win for Leicester, but a nightmare for Tottenham. Spurs were playing against the Leicester side, who only had 1 win in their last 14 Premier League games and only had one away once all season against bottom of the table Southampton. They lost their last 7 games in a row coming into this game. And whilst we acknowledge Spurs have got a number of injuries right now, and it is tough on the players, the same players, to keep on churning out every 3 to 4 days, Spurs hardly created anything in that last half hour, really. And you can put it down to fatigue. But with Tottenham now, it is 1 win in our last 11 games. In addition to that, Spurs, of course, on this winless consecutive 7-game run at home for the first time since 2008. Tottenham's defeat against Leicester was the first time since 1912 that we've lost against a team on a 7-game losing streak in the league. I mean, Cracks, we are non-stop breaking all the wrong records at the moment. We've got a lot to get through. We've got a lot to get through. Ian, Levy, Postecoglou, the game. Very quickly, thoughts on that game for you and how it panned out over the course of 94, 95, 97 minutes in the end?
Well, to stick with the game, because we try and keep it each section separate. Rick, well done once again for bringing together a show. It's not easy, and like I've said 1,000 times before, you're a family man, a working man. I'm luckily a retired man with loads of time on my hands now, and I don't know how you fit it in, because I've got kids. You've grown up now. You've got young kids. You do all this. I tell you now, people, I know that Ricky is up some nights on the late shows all night, then goes to work all day. I know there's been suggestions that paid by the club and in the club's pocket and a club shill and this and that. A man that just works so hard to bring us and everybody some content and brings us all together. So, Rick, well done, because, you can see from the comments, a lot of people get a lot from this show and take a lot from it, and therapy. It is what people describe it as. It's a therapy. So for you to bring it all together, the way Tottenham is at the moment and the way the club's been taken by these current owners. If you turn around to me tomorrow and said, I'm going to do last word on talking about 80s pop music, I'd be happier to come and do that. But because, I have such love for you as a brother and all the other boys and girls that gather on here and the people in the comments, lots of which I haven't met, but you feel like, you come and do it. To try and give your opinion. It may differ sometimes. We all may differ, but we all love Tottenham Hotspur at the end of the day. And we all maybe come from different angles and see things differently. Ange in, Ange out, this player in, this player out. But we all just want the same thing. Tottenham to be a happy and club where it's going well. So, Rick, just, in the good times, it's great. In the bad times, this is when you learn a lot about people. In the adversity, this is when you learn about it. And to come along, and there's other pods out there as well and channels that come and do the same thing to try and offer people a little something to gather around and try and make sense of how they feel about things. So listen, well done once again for putting a show out there, mate. Proud of you. The game today was the game today, wasn't it? He's got limited choice of players. The players that are out there are knackered because they've just been flogged so much. We've got injuries galore, some of which are just bad luck, some of which may come from training methods, and probably a mixture of all those things. So, this lineup that we had today, Maddison has received a late knock apparently and couldn't play. But that's a story within itself, because he seems to be in and out and in and out, and there seems to be, without any knowledge, something going on there where it's, there seems to be some sort of clash of personalities or whatever it is, where he doesn't seem to play regularly. But let's take for read what was said, that he couldn't play today. So the team that got put out was the team that got put out, but they're knackered, Rick. They look knackered. They look out on their feet. The effort was there, the will was there, but they just can't. You can't keep asking this same group of players, this limited group of players, to go out there and ship miracles. I mean, the fact that they got a result against Hoffenheim the other night was quite admirable. They just look out on their feet, and you couple this with having half the pitch with young teenagers who, by the way, anything said tonight about where we are as a club and a team doesn't include you. It doesn't include a Mikey Moore, doesn't include an Archie Gray or a Bergvall. These are 18-year-old kids that are actually stepping up and being men. They are being absolute men in this team at the moment, giving it all that they can. It's just I've got so much admiration for these youngsters in that side, because this is tough at the moment and they keep chewing it up and spitting it out and giving their all. But ultimately, they are kids. They've got lots to learn in this game. If you're filling half of your team up with kids, these are the results you are going to get. So the game today itself, Rick, it was just a familiar, well-trodden road of what we are and where we are at the moment. We come up against a team of some wiser, older players that have found their way to get a result today. You've got a 38-year-old Jamie Vardy up front who just defies his age. He really does. To be 38 and still playing in the Premier League and doing what he does. He might not be everybody's cup of tea, but he is an out-and-out born footballer. That boy, he's come up through the ranks. He's a man and boy footballer, come up through the ranks. He's been there, done it, seen it all. And if you're coming up against wily old operators like that, when you've got a really young team that's out on their feet, you're going to get caught out. You will get caught out, and caught out we did today. So, look, this is just where we are. Until we get some bodies back or some new bodies in, these are the results that we are going to get. And I don't think we're going to go down. I think that 8 points gap will be too much for those below us to make up. And I think we'll nick a few results here and there towards the end of the season, which means we stay out of trouble. But the fact we're even talking about being in trouble, just the fact of that alone, even if we don't actually end up in it, the fact that we are raising an eyebrow to it, looking over the top of our glasses at it, just a little glance over the shoulder at it, just tells you everything you need to know about where this club is at the moment, where this team is at the moment. But yeah, it's troubling, Rick. It's very, very troubling. You only have to look at that form table at the moment, and this Premier League is ruthless. It is absolutely ruthless. If we do get pulled into trouble, there's no bollocks there, Rick, for this fight. It's not there. Well, let me correct that. There will be the will and the want from some of these young kids, but you've got to be a little bit more than that. They are digging us out of some holes lately, and that's a worrying sign. That is a real worrying sign. Today's game was just something, it's rinse and repeat football, isn't it? Something we've seen so many times this season, but they're out on their feet, Rick. They are out on their feet. They badly need some help.
Greg, thank you so much. It seems to be very, very clear. We are going to come on to the ball's role in this. Let's make it very, very clear. We're approaching 27 days into a transfer window where the manager has said consistently before it's opened, during, he needs help. They have sat on their hands and done absolutely nothing but an alternative goalkeeper that's been brought in the previous summer. So they will get it during this show. I absolutely promise you they will get it. Tej, I'm going to come over to you. Cracks alluded to it there that we have got tired players at the moment that, with all due respect, in relation to that game that we're watching, that are quite simply lacking ideas. And there's very few senior players that can come off the bench to actually help them right now. It's pretty much a game that summed up what's going on at the club right now. Spurs, as I mentioned in that opening intro there, they've got 1 win in 11 games and 5 points from a possible 33 after another 1-goal defeat. There was absolutely the loudest chants you've heard at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I would say, for Daniel Levy to leave his role as chairman of the football club. Fans were screaming, shouting at the top of their voice, especially from that south stand, we want Levy out. But the sound system did its absolute best at the end of that game to try and drown out the boos and the jeers. And I'm pleased to say to you, they absolutely failed. They absolutely failed. Many fans could hear that loud and clear across the world of just what we think of ENIC and Daniel Levy's ownership of this football club. And it's quite startling when you look at Leicester's form that I mentioned in the beginning of the show. They've had one win away all season. That's a bottom of the table Southampton. And to put it into perspective, Spurs, when you look at Leicester's own form, 23.5% of Leicester's Premier League points this season have come against Tottenham, which sums up really the absolute mess we find our domestic form in. Teach, give me your thoughts on that game.
Tough show, Rick. And Crack has opened so eloquently and accurately to praise you, mate. So we're all here for that, man. Like how you managed to keep producing this show to the quality that you do. We take our hats off to you, bro. So as far as the game, and you were saying that those chants were heard all over the world. You know, I'm over in Los Angeles, right? I woke up, I actually got up at 4:30 this morning. Wasn't really sleeping, was nervous about the game. And it started off at 6 a.m. for me. And it was a very poor quality game. It didn't even look like a Premier League game. Profligate passing, that's being generous, to be honest. Just really poor quality passing, poor quality movement off the ball. Decision-making was under 6, under 7s, maybe. Still have that kind of spirit. Like if I see the goal, even if I'm 40 yards away at an impossible angle, I'm going to shoot. But what did put a smile on my face today were those chants. And the thing is about any kind of news nowadays, with the power and the reach of social media being entirely unstoppable, and that's for good or bad, right? We've created a monster that nobody can control. An all-powerful, all-seeing, all-reaching monster is what social media is. You can shut them down and immediately another one comes up. And so I take my hat off to the people that organize themselves and also in the manner in which they protested. We're going to get onto all that later in the show, Rick, and I want to respect the time and the energy that you've put into crafting a show. And just for people who are watching and listening, we were all on the phone with each other before this program, you know, planning diligently how we were going to do this. So please respect that. We hear everything that you're saying. We're going to get to all of those points. We promise you, not to speak for the collective, but we have all spoken before the show to make sure that we answer everything. But as far as the game itself, you know, there were the same positives. Bergvall, terrific. Archie Gray, terrific. Son, kind of hit and miss. Kulu, really poor today, obviously exhausted. The only player that I was really annoyed with today was two, actually. I mean, one of them was Sarr, but then I heard he's injured. So, okay, I'm cutting him a little bit of a break. I thought Benton Kerr is probably the worst game I've ever seen him play for Tottenham today. And he's such a good player, such a gifted player. And also, again, if anyone's played the game or even if you follow it, having a central midfielder who doesn't control and doesn't want the ball at all times, whether they receive it or not, really hurts you, man. It was very, very poor today, and that was disappointing as well as frustrating. And then Porro, man, like, come on, bro. We all know that you've got a cannon in your right boot, but come on, bro. And again, I know you're really tired. I know you're up and down, and he's being asked to do an awful lot. They're all being asked to do an awful lot. Good Lord. I mean, how many fit players do we have? 13, 14, like literally fit players, 13 or 14. So I know he's being tasked with a lot, but please, bro, switch on mentally, man. You know, we really need results. So tough game, tough position for us to be in right now, ironically. But listen, man, genuinely good to be back on the show, and we're going to do what we can. We're going to do what we can for this community, for this Tottenham fan base. We'll do what we can, and we promise that we will speak our truth. And if that's representative of you, fantastic. If it differs from your opinion, it's nothing personal. We never mean anything but love and consideration. Good to be back on the show with these esteemed gentlemen. Thank you, Rick.
Steve, thank you so much. And Miles, coming over to you, I'm sorry it's taken 20 minutes to get to you. You know how much we love you and how much we have, you know, I think you've kind of wedded your way into the last one on Spurs. I get so many comments about how much people love seeing you on the show, hearing you on the show. And I know I'm bringing you into a really tough fire flame that is Tottenham right now. And I can only apologise for doing so. You know how much love I've got for you. Look, the reality is where we find ourselves in terms of that game itself. You know, Spurs imploded in a 4-minute period at the start of that second half, which is partly, you've got to say, on the group of players. I don't think you can get away from that. You know, the players themselves, the ones that are fit and available to play. And yes, we warrant the fact and understand that they've only had a 3 or 4 day turnaround. You know, we've had this a lot under this current hierarchy regime of the nature of players capitulating at certain points in different tenureships under different managers. And this was a 4-minute implosion where we gave away the lead in the space of, I mentioned 4 minutes, but these things can happen to an exhausted squad. It's blindly obvious that at this moment, the squad can't cope. And so this slump is a consequence of not using this window, or dare we say, waiting until the very, very end to maybe improve. But we still don't know that's going to be the case because of the ineptitude, and I can't even call them a board anymore. I don't know what these people are that are currently running our football club. I don't even want to use the word custodians because that would be too nice to call them custodians. Maybe I want to call them charlatans. I don't know. They feel like imposters. They honestly feel like imposters. You know, I said this actually off air to the boys that when my dad took me to White Lane for the first time, I'm going to show my age now, 30 years ago? I mean, at the time, I just felt that connection as soon as I walked up those steps into that stadium. I was like, this is me, you know, because Tottenham, I didn't choose Tottenham, just to be very, very clear. I'm not sure many fans do choose Tottenham anymore. You know, they chose me because my dad and the generations before me were Tottenham fans. It ran through my blood. I'm Ricky after Ricky Villa. You know, I can't get away from the fact Tottenham, I'll always be Tottenham, despite how much they're killing us right now as fans. I'll always be them. But, I mean, look, Miles, to bring it back to where we are right now, Tottenham's points per game in the Premier League this season is 1.04. It's the lowest in any campaign for Spurs in 75 years. I mean, whatever you think right now about Ange Postecoglou, and we'll come on to him latter part of this show.
Yeah,
that's just simply unacceptable, Miles. It's simply unacceptable. Just tell me what your thoughts on the game itself before we have to go into everything else on this show.
Look, I'm going to echo the words that Crackers and TJ said. Like, Ricky, obviously, I've known you for the last 8-9 months now, so I can see some of the work you put in. And sometimes when we're messing each other, and you're still going, and I'm like, these kids are killing me and they're killing you, but you're still going with the show. So completely understand. However, let me get into the game. Now, for me, I can clearly see the squad are on their feet at the moment, and I get it. However, this is a catalogue of errors that were made at the beginning of the season by Ange himself, by not using his squad fully when we had Europa League games and we had league games coming up. Because Dragushin didn't see a minute, Gray saw minutes here and there, Bergvall saw a couple minutes in the Europa League, but obviously got substitute because of sending off, nothing to do with him. But we're now relying on these players. Reguilon is only seeing minutes because we're at the bare bones. You know, this is going to be, and I know everyone's having a go at Porro, but you can see where he's exhausted and his mind is becoming lazy. You can suddenly see on the pitch, he's not making them runs. He's going forward because he's still putting in lovely balls, but defending's never been his game. But at the beginning of the season, he was there because his mind was on it. But I'm going to take you back to the Leicester game that we had at the beginning of the season. Today was exactly the same, but we got punished today where we didn't get punished for it when back in August, because we can sit there and say, yeah, it's this, that, and the other. But when you actually look at the gameplay of both games, they literally were exactly the same. They literally mirrored each other. And so what's happened today is because we've got the less important players on it who, you know, are tired on their feet, who have played how many games in how many days, for me, I don't get how no one prepared for this after the summer transfer window going, we've got more games, but we've got less of a squad. Doesn't make sense to me, but we're now here. So when we're now being punished for that summer transfer window, we get into the winter one and we sign a goalkeeper and you're like, but we've got 4 or 5 on the books. And I'm going to be totally honest, I believe Kinsky today should have saved at least one of those, but I'm not going to get into that. That's a complete different argument. But if we're still going to be playing this way, you know, you need the players out there to be able to play this way. And unfortunately for Ange, he's never been involved in this before. This is all new to him. And this is what happens when you come to Tottenham Hotspur. A lot of us have seen this before. Crackers is probably more old enough to see the worst times than this. But we're in a bit where we saw it with Ozzy Ardiles when we were literally, games were losing 4-3 and things like that. And this is where we're at now with Ange. And it's just kind of going, where next? where do we go next? Because I know we're asking questions of Ange, but where do Spurs go next? And I know we're going to speak about that completely in a separate piece. But for me right now, there's so many issues to try and fight. It's where to start. And that's the biggest problem right now, as you can see from the whole fan base. I know, look, I've always said I know where the major problem is, but Ange is not faultless in this either. He's not faultless in this, and nor are the players. And to be quite honest, neither are we. It's a catalogue of errors now that we're all kind of going through. And for me, just looking at the game today, I didn't expect to lose to Leicester. I'm going to be completely honest. I thought we'd go out there and put a performance. However, from what I saw, I wasn't surprised with, and I'm getting more and more numb to it as we go on this season. And you know, I remember messaging you straight after the game. Why have you brought me on today of all games? But actually, this is probably more perfect for me to come out because there's so much I want to say, so much I want to get out. But unfortunately for the guys that are out there, the 11 that he's putting out on the pitch, because the whole bit I don't get. Sarr was injured. He said he wanted to go out there and he wanted to make the effort and put something out there, but James Maddison wasn't. There clearly is something wrong now, because that, for me, he was fit yesterday, and from what people are saying, he posted stuff on his social media. He was ready to play today.
Well, he was. Something's happened. Just to be clear, he said he's sore and he's going to need a bit more time. But again, he's put, as you said there, Marlon, so eloquently, he's put Sarr out there, who he's admitted shouldn't have started the game, shouldn't have played the game.
Well, this is the whole argument of, actually, you can't sit there and say that about one player and then the other player sitting there out there. You need to go and tell this board, if Sarr's not fit, don't play him. It doesn't matter, because then us fans can see what's going on, and we won't start directing our blame at you because you've gone and put this in full formation out there, which doesn't suit them. So you need to actually be straight with us. When these players can't play and they are not fully fit and they are sick and they are injured, don't play them, because then we can go to the board. Actually, we can see that Ange needs proper help. It's getting to a point where he can't even put bodies out there. So, you know, he has to take some blame here as well. And for me, look, at the end of the day, this is where the Premier League is very, very cruel, because at the end of the day, when you are playing 3 18-year-olds in there and you've got a Mikey Moore coming back from a long layoff, this Premier League will punish you. And even like teams that have come up, like Leicester, like the Ipswiches and stuff, at the moment, they will punish you as well, because they do have that slight bit of quality. As we saw today, we saw it against Wolves. These teams are down there, but they can have a little bit of quality that will punish, and we seem to be getting punished the most because we allow these teams to have chances. And at this present moment, the way we defend from back to front is killing us. Absolutely killing us, and you can clearly see that. And what's happening is that we're playing well for 70 minutes or keeping the ball. Like, we didn't even play well today, but we had most of the ball. Leicester needed 5 minutes to beat us. 5 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah. And then Everton only needed 5 or 10 minutes to even kill us off last week. And this seems to be a reoccurring thing. Arsenal only needed 10 minutes to beat us. This is becoming a major issue going forward. But I don't see. Look, for me, I can't wait till we play Manchester City, because that's the only time I see the next 3 points coming from. Apart from that, I don't know where they're going to come.
I don't know about Man City. I don't know about any. I honestly look at where Spurs are in terms of their fixtures right now. And I will say this again, I'm a very positive person outside of my life supporting Tottenham right now. I honestly can't tell you where the next win is coming from. And it breaks my heart to say that. I honestly can't tell you where the next win is coming from. I will just say that there's been a number of comments in the comments section as we're doing this show suggesting, I know Jason actually said this as well to me actually off air, that what would have maybe made more of a point is if he fielded the likes of Whiteman and he put the other goalkeepers on the bench to kind of show the extent of how bad, you know, that bench is. But at the end of the day, you know, the fact is they haven't listened to Ange Postecoglou, because from before the window opened, he made it very, very clear the squad needed help before Dominic Solanke went down. Didn't listen, haven't listened during the window. They brought forward the goalkeeper, and it just kind of shows where we are. Before I do come on to ENIC, I just need to also unravel kind of, for many out there, just how bad things are. And I'm sorry that I don't want to hear how bad things are about our form right now, but the more I hear it, the more I just kind of think, is this the football club that I love so much, dear to my heart? You know, I think the worst thing, Miles, about that second half is that we didn't once look like scoring. You know, 18 goals conceded in the last 7 games. This loss rate this season has been 56.5%. Spurs have now gone, as I mentioned earlier in the show, 7 matches without a Premier League win with 6 defeats in that time. In the space of a week, Tottenham have lost 2 Premier League games against teams who had 1 win in 12 Premier League games and 1 win in 14 Premier League games. 9 wins in 9 months, 13 defeats in 23 league games. Whether people want to admit it or not, and I know, Crackers, you said at the start of the show, Tottenham, you don't believe will get dragged into a relegation battle. They might not, but there's no doubt about it. This is relegation form. And it is diabolical. It is diabolical. You know, Pedro Porro had his hands on his heads at full time. But, you know, just to be clear about the overall picture for Tottenham in that Premier League now, we finished the weekend 17 points off the current top 4. And the reason why I mentioned the top 4 is that that's always feels to be an ENIC, Daniel Levy target, or what they always look to at the start of the season. So we're 17 points off that at the moment. We are only 8 points off the relegation places. And I do need to let you guys know that don't know this already, that next weekend we have, of course, for us, got Brentford away, and Everton are taking on Leicester, which, yeah, however that may pan out, Spurs' position at the table might even get more precarious right now. You know, they've lost an unbelievable 56.5% of their league games so far. And if you keep that up until May, they may lose 21-22, and that will be their most ever defeats in a 38-game league season. And credit Jack Pickbrook, I think, who put this out himself. It's currently their worst league losing rate ever. They lost 52% of league games in 1912-13, 20 out of 38, 1934-95, 22 out of 42, 50% in 93-54, 97-75, 97-76, 97-77, all those 21-42, and in the 2003-4 season, 19 out of 38. So they could quite easily break not only the record for the league defeats in a 38-game season, but maybe league defeats across all those respective seasons, which just put into picture illustration just how bad this form is. I am going to halt right there, and we're going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. We have got over 10,000 of you that are watching the show live. Look, thank you so much, as always, for your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. Next up is addressing the ball. And I want to say at the head of this point, I again implore you and encourage you to like and share this show to a wide range Spurs audience that will hopefully feel what we are feeling right now when it comes to the individuals and the people leading our football club. Because at some point it feels inhumane what they're doing to the supporters, where what we're paying to watch and see our beloved football club. Now, I do want to address one thing if I can, because I gotta say it's a fast-moving show here. Rinkatek says, Rick, how will you take action against Daniel Levy and ENIC? And that's a question that has been fielded a lot actually during Last Word on Spurs, and to me in general. And, you know, to this point, I've actually said quite consistently, we can't change the board. They are who they are. But maybe I'm putting the white flag up by suggesting and saying that by saying we can't change the board. I'm going to say something that maybe I haven't said today on Last Word on Spurs, and then hopefully people will make it clear where I stand at the moment. We can change the board. You can change anything in life with will, with power, with people, with doing things in the right way. And I want to put this out there that I'm very lucky to be, I think, hosting the largest independent Tottenham Hotspur fan podcast there is. And I want to say to people out there that I'm open and I'm willing and I'm waiting to hear of a organised structure, of a pre-planned suggestion we can do that is going to take action against this hierarchy. So just be very, very clear. I want to repeat that one more time for those that haven't heard it the first time. I'm willing to listen, to hear, to take action. If Tottenham brands want to come together, as we have done over certain other things in the past, and look to try and force change, I'm willing to be open to want to do that. And I've always wanted and been open to willing to do that. But it's important that I just say that out there for people that don't necessarily think I want to do that. So I want to say that. And number two, I need to stress something very, very clear. You know, not only is this a family podcast, Tottenham Hotspur is also a family football club. And I see young family, young children go into match days and games all the time. Some for their first time, some that have been there many times with family. And I think what I want to be very, very clear is on, and I'm not suggesting anybody has done this in the past, just so I get my words right here. But I think what is important, that anything that we are looking to plan or we are looking to do is done in the right way and in accordance where it does not hinder or harm young families taking their children to that stadium on a match day. I've got 2 boys of a very, very young age. They're my life. They are my life. They go beyond, look, I love this football club very, very dearly. Those children, my family are my life, just to be very, very clear. So I want to say to you out there, just to be clear on my stance right now, is that I'm open, I'm willing, I want to hear, I want to listen to the people out there that can try and put something together in the form of trying to help change this hierarchy and get back our football club. Enough is enough. 24 years, just to be very, very clear, ENIC have been here. 16 managers, 1 trophy. It is time for change. For me, as I speak as the host of this show, Levy out, ENIC out. We as a Spurs fan base deserve so much better than what they're seeing right now. And if anybody thinks, for anybody out there, I don't think I've got any influence whatsoever about what we can do as a fan base, me personally. But if I can help be a part of something that is going to force change at this football club, I want to do it. But I want to do it rightly. I want to do it where families, children can go along to that stadium and still enjoy their experience. And again, I'll repeat that point. That's not to say to this date anything has happened to stop that from happening. But I want to be clear on that point. And Cracks, I am going to come to you on this next point because there are many fans that will feel, as you've said many times on this show, that the complete mismanagement at the highest level of our football club is being laid bare in front of our eyes. It's allowed us to leave the out chance of being heard inside that Tottenham Hotspur stadium, and they try to pump the match day music to pump it down or to put it down, but they couldn't. They simply couldn't. It is complete incompetence. There's been successive mistakes in terms of signings, managerial appointments, failure after failure in transfer windows. 6 years ago, we were in a Champions League final. Present day, I'm having to come onto Last Word on Spurs, talking about how we can try and steer our way towards not being relegated. You know, ENIC in the past fortnight have increased their holding ever so slightly even more. That gives a suggestion they're not going anywhere. Cracks, where do you stand on what this hierarchy are doing to our club? Because they have built a business, and I'm watching in front of me destroying a football club in front of my eyes.
Well, Rick, Daniel Levy, and I apologised on social media earlier, and I'll apologise now for my language, but sometimes it does need to be a little bit colourful. Daniel Levy is a fucking coward. He is a coward of a chairman. Absolute. He's got no balls. It's funny, actually. ENIC sounds a hell of a lot like eunuch, doesn't it? It's like you could quite easily get those 2 words easily mixed up. And for those of you that haven't swallowed a dictionary, a eunuch is a castrated man, a man with no balls. So I think from here on in, ENIC should be known as eunuch, because that's what he is. The man has got absolutely no fucking balls whatsoever. He's taken this football club and run it as a business. He hasn't got the bollocks to run a football club. He's got no backbone. He's got no bollocks to run a football club. He's turned it into a business because he can't cut it as a football chairman. No bravery whatsoever. None whatsoever. And he will one day leave this club, and he'll leave this club with a big old sack of money, the only thing that makes him happy. But with no honour. It takes a little bit of guile, a little bit of daring, a little bit of pushing the boat out, a little bit of bravery, and he hasn't got it. None whatsoever. He hides. He's a man that hides away and just chips away, bringing his money in. The only way he's made money out of this business is holding fans' emotions to hostage. He knows that people will come to that ground because they love Tottenham Hotspur, because for most people, it's been in their family for generations and generations. So he knows that people will come. He knows that we're addicted to Tottenham. He knows that they're in our blood and in our hearts. So he knows he's got us. And that's the only way he makes his money, is because he exploits our loyalty. He makes his money that way. But he doesn't go with it and try and give us something that this club has had for like 140 years now. The daring and the do of a Dave Mackay and a Bill Nick and a Steve Perryman and those and a Jimmy Greaves and even a Ginola and a Gascoigne and everybody else that got us into this game and wanting to be part of something. He's taken all of that and absolutely thrown it up in the air. But he knows we keep going just in the hope that that actually comes back one day. But it won't with him. And off he'll go with his big old sack of money, the only thing that seems to make him happy. But he'll never be welcomed back by the fans. He'll never be remembered for being somebody that was Tottenham and part of something football-wise. But he'll be happy. He'll have his big old sack of money. But you know what? You can't take penny one of that with you. None of it. You'll never see a hearse pulling a safe. You'll never see pockets in a shroud. He'll take none of that money with him. None of it. But you know what? When your day comes, and everybody's day does come one day, all you've got is your memories and what you've done as a person in your life and the times that you tried and you was a little bit daring and a little bit brave and tried to be something. He won't have none of that. Not one bit of it. He's a coward, Rick. He always has been and he always will be. And he'll never, ever be remembered by this fan base for anything. He'll think he'll be remembered for building that stadium. But that's just bricks and mortar, Rick. It's just bricks and mortar. It's the only thing that excites him. What goes on inside of it, no interest. The real things that's supposed to go on in football stadiums, the memories that's created, he's taking it all away. All of it. He's built none of it whatsoever. There's been nothing under him. And how many times have we ever heard from him? He's done an in-house interview.
You can count on one and two hands.
Yeah. In-house TV interview with a few carefully crafted and structured questions put to him that he handpicked. He went off to like the Oxford Debating Society, where he was never, ever going to be asked any far-reaching questions because he hasn't got the bollocks to come on a show like here. He wouldn't get abused if he come on here. He'd just be asked some far-reaching questions and some difficult questions and stuff. You know, he wouldn't get abused. But would he come on somewhere like this show? No chance. Would he go on something like TalkSport, you know, and take some questions? No. Because he's a coward, Rick. He's a bollockless coward.
As long as it's controlled, as long as it can be pre-edited, pre-recorded, where it's on his terms, then yes. But any other reason, no. I'll just say on that point, I implore Daniel Levy, I will happily come and give the opportunity to explain to us fans what is happening right now at our football club. Because all I can say is I say it in footballing terms.
He won't, Rick. He's a fucking coward. He is a coward. And until this fan base hits him in the pocket, that's the only thing he cares about. He don't care about Tottenham Hotspur. He cares about the bottom line. If we hit that, then he'll care. Then he'll be worried. Then he'll get his sleepless nights. Everything else, forget it. But he won't come on something like this. He won't be interviewed outside of his comfort zone and ask questions that he hasn't been pre-given because he's a coward. And he'll leave this club as a coward.
Correct. Thank you so much. Tej, I'm going to turn over to you. I mean, look, I think all of us here are so broken and so hurt of where we find ourselves right now. And I think this kind of equates where we're at. You look at the highest director pay in all the Premier League clubs. There's Daniel Levy leading that chart. Spurs leading something at the moment, ironically, isn't it? Ironic they're leading something at the moment when it comes to the chairman. You look at the wages to income. Spurs the lowest at 47%, which again reiterates really this is a business. It's not a football club. It's really not for us wonderful fans that adore and love this club. And you know what? We'll come on to Postecoglou shortly because there's frustration with regards to where we're at with him. But it does feel like it's another campaign to vindicate that many players over the last 25 years who left things to win things elsewhere pretty much will feel, I use that word again, vindicated, because there's been a fundamental policy shift urgently needed. Otherwise, we are here again seeing really there very little making any difference. A reminder out there before I bring TG in: our season ticket prices at Tottenham are the second most expensive in Europe and have been for a very, very long time. We absolutely deserve the right to demand more and challenging at the top and signing world-class players. And we were told, just to be clear on this point, the stadium would be a game changer. I left my seat at White Hart Lane, Tottenham in a title race. In that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium right now, I'm in a relegation battle. Game changed, which sums up where we are right now. Tej, what do you want to say about this hierarchy and where we're at the moment with them? 24 years down the line.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I put out on X earlier when Last Word was sending out messages about the show and the panelists, and you and I had spoken on the phone, Rick. And I said that there will be some positives, not just from me, which is kind of my disposition, I suppose. Like you, Ricky, everything in my life, I'm a very optimistic, very positive person. I believe that so much of what we receive from life is hard-earned, deserved. And so if you put in positive energy, hopefully you receive positive results. So here comes the big positive. I believe, potentially for the first time, that the entire Tottenham Hotspur fan base is united behind one single cause, potentially for the first time in a long time. And that singular cause is the removal of Daniel Levy, ENIC, and the current ownership. That's powerful. And again, I want to also say to all of the people who are watching and listening this show, to this program, please share this. Please share this to other Tottenham Hotspur accounts, to other Tottenham podcasts, to other Tottenham channels, to other notable Tottenham enthusiast reporters, whoever they may be. This is really important. There is power in numbers. And if we can galvanize and become united behind a singular cause of removing this cancerous tumor of a man and his board of leeches, there are some things in football and many things in life that are entirely subjective. Some people are going to say, I think Ange is fantastic. Some people are going to say, you're absolutely crazy. Ange is terrible. Some people are going to say, Harry Kane's the greatest striker that ever lived. Others are going to say, Harry Kane's not even in the top 10. However, there are other things in life that are objective, that are beyond opinion. And numbers never care. Statistics and numbers have no feeling, no emotions. They don't care. So those statistics that you flashed up on the screen earlier, Rick, moments ago, look at that. Who is the highest paid director in the Premier League? By some distance, Daniel Levy. He gets paid more than 95, 98% of the players at our club. So again, Tottenham fan base, rather than fighting each other over things that we have so little control over, people hurling vitriol and abuse at each other, rather than uniting behind a singular cause, look at these numbers. Look at wages to income. Tottenham, number one. Look at who is the highest paid director in all of the Premier League. Daniel Levy, number one. Those numbers are beyond refute and beyond debate. If you want to be angry, if you want to put your passion and your following and your time and your energy behind something, put it behind
the elite wages. We are currently 15th in the Premier League. We burn through managers. We guarantee injuries. We haven't won anything for the last 15 plus years. We are fishing in a different pond to the best. Many would argue that is because Daniel Levy and co have taken us to that point. But I think the worst part for many's realisation is that many might think Ange might go, but it's also the fact that it's then down to the same group of individuals that are going to make the next appointment of the season to replace him. I mean, it's blunder after blunder, mistake after mistake. And it comes to a point where I think, TJ said it so spot on there, I think the fan base are unified about one thing, and it's that we need the removal of ENIC and Daniel Levy from this football club, Mars. What's your thoughts on this overall conversation?
Look, I've wanted Levy out for ages. I never liked him from mine the old days. That for me summed up the character and where this club was going. But you know, a lot of people said, "No, give it time, give it chance." Yes, we got to Champions League final. We won the League Cup, but look how we won the League Cup. Ramos got sacked 6 months later because they went and sold Berbatov and Keane. It just sums up the way this football club's always been run. Now, Cracker said a couple of things earlier that he's always done interviews under a controlled environment. But even in that controlled environment, he's always tripped himself up with certain things. And the Cambridge one there was an eye opener of a question about I think someone had asked about put the younger fans going, and he'd already said something earlier, and he tripped himself up saying football's changed and this, that, and the other. And Levy does this; he trips himself up. Now, what's really, really interesting is that Simon Jordan mentioned just after the Christmas break that he had done an interview with Levy. Where's that interview? Where was that interview? It'd be quite interesting to see if the club have pulled the plug on it because of everything that's going on, and it doesn't put him in a good light. Look, we've been hearing from the club for weeks. They're backing Ange. They're backing Ange. This January transfer window, maybe even the summer transfer window, suggests that actually they didn't really back him from in the first place. They've just kind of seen what was the next step so they can go and get someone else. And it always seems to be that case at the moment. You say we're not an attractive place for players. It's managers, which is the biggest problem. How many managers did we go through before Nuno? Was it 11? That they actually named a whole team of 11 managers? When Postecoglou came in, again, same problem. We keep going through this cycle, and I can't believe as fans it's taken us this long to wake up and actually see where the problems are. And do you know what? I remember when Ange came in, and there was quite a few people in my community were saying, "Oh no, we've got to get rid of Ange now, get rid of Ange now," and this, that, and the other. And I was like, no. For me, Ange is going to be the one that breaks everything, and people start to see what Levy is, because Ange was going to bring the sort of football. When he come out and said, "We've got our Tottenham back," and I just thought, you've messed up there, because you've now got to back this man fully. And I go back to his Celtic days. Celtic fans was telling us Spurs fans, when it comes to the big games with Ange suffers. He has many injuries, and he's not good in the big games, especially in the Champions League. And a lot of us just wrote that off and was like, no, we've got attacking football. We're now starting to see the glaring holes of the way Ange plays and what he needs to progress and push forward. As long as he has the best team in the league, like he did at Celtic, it works. But when you come to the Premier League, there's a certain clientele that his football needs, and we just won't do that for Ange right now. So for me, it's kind of going, the board have to go and work with someone who works their way. And I've said this for months. They have to go with someone who works their way, not who we want, who works their way. Unfortunately, there's not many managers out there that are willing to work under Renick and this philosophy. And I can't believe that it's taken a lot of us fans to wake up, and it's taken this long for us to finally get to this point. I don't understand why. Like, let's take Spurs Talk Show. He'll always be there saying that actually the stadium has been a game changer because we've been able to spend the money. We've been spending bigger money. But the problem that we've got with spending all this money is that we end up spending it on players that are not helping us now, players that are for the future. But if we don't have the manager to be able to develop them, it all just doesn't work. And then you'll end up having players wanting to leave. How long before Bergvall and Archie go, you know what, this is not for me. This is not for me. And this is what's going to end up happening. He doesn't put everything in the right place at the right time. And going from his salary should represent where we are in the salary chart for the players as well. I think we're like 6th or 7th with the wages in the Premier League. That's where his salary should be as well. It should go. They should be hand in hand. He shouldn't be top, because what's he achieved to be top? What has he actually achieved? Like Cracker said, I don't remember who built White Hart Lane. I don't know. That's the same thing going to be with Levy and Enoch. I won't remember. When the next generation comes in, none of them will remember Enoch. None of them will remember Levy for what he did, because the stadium would be in the future and it'd be like, oh yeah, it just happened. Spurs moved into it in such a year, and that'll be the part of the history.
I actually feel that people will remember. I'm like you, Miles. I don't know who built White Hart Lane, but I'll never forget Levy and Enoch because of the years of abuse, decades of abuse. And so when they do finally go and we can get rid of them, I don't think we will forget them, but we'll forget them for all the wrong or the right reasons.
Yeah.
Like, however you choose to look at
and
that.
that's the thing. We won't remember them in the positive light.
Dragon,
Yeah.
You know, we have exorcised the demon, whichever analogy you wish to use. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. And that's the thing. We won't remember them for the positive stuff. And that's the biggest problem going forward. We're in a moment now where I think as fans, and I totally get that everyone's now on the same page. Well, I say 99%, 98% are on the same page. But it's just now, what are the next steps? And this is where I agree with you, Rick. We need to get to a point where, if it is change for Spurs, that's the organisation that I know of. If it is for them, they need to now get us in the right place and actually go, what are the next steps? They probably need to start coming on, not just this podcast, all the rest of them, so we can get the whole fan base together, because it needs to get everyone, so we know exactly what they're doing, and so we can all get behind it.
Yeah, well, some of those points there. Message here says the base of any process has to be about what we want and not what we don't want. I'm sick of hearing people what they don't want. A message here from KJ says, would you be willing to have a conversation with different channels out there in terms of taking control of some organisation? I mean, can I just say again on that point, to be very, very clear, because I said at the start of this conversation, I'm willing to interact with anybody out there that can see and can try and put together something in a structure and in a way in the corners that can work, that is going to hopefully lead to the removal of Daniel Levy and ENIC. I don't believe what I've said there has ruled out any single individual or any single brand on Tottenham. But I think what needs to be very, very made clear, as I said at the opening part of what I said, is that whatever we do propose, whatever we do put together, it needs to be done in a way in which it is not going to affect. And just to be very, very clear, I'm not saying it has done, just so I can be very, very clear on this. It does not stop, it does not harm young family going to the game, and it can be done in a way in which is the right way by way Tottenham do things. Just to be very, very clear.
That's the only way that it will be effective as well, Rick. It's not only is being mindful and being tactical and strategic with how these protests are organised, and then of course how they're executed. You've got to think that, of course, to your point earlier, Rick, that you said, about the we want Levy out chance, and how the stadium, how the infrastructure, how the core of the club were well aware of that. And so they were trying to battle against it. So we are in a fight. They know we want them out, right? And they're fighting back. These are good things, right? That they are aware that we're fighting them. But here's the thing. When we do go in protest, if it's not done in the right way, if there is some aggression or some hostility or violence, believe me, the Levy PR team will focus on that, spread that to every news media outlet on the planet. They will pay vast sums of money, which they have that we don't have, to make sure that every single social media channel is blasting, look at these people, look at these thugs, look at these hooligans, all that kind of thing. It has to be done strategically, gang. We need to be smart about this. This is a mental game, not a physical game. They can outspend us in any possible way that we could ever conceive. So these protests have to be done. Like Ricky said, he's been very, very clear, peaceful, strategic, effective, and executed like with military precision, but peacefully.
I think it's on that point, as we say there, it's got to be done in the right way. And again, I will just implore what I've said throughout this section on ENIC, that I'm open and I'm willing and I'm happy to speak to the representatives out there that would like to try and help to force change at this football club. That's not ruling out any single person or any single individual. That's about collectively coming together in the right way to try and remove ENIC and Daniel Levy from this football club in the right way. I know Miles wants to come on that point there. Miles.
Yeah, what I really wanted to get at is, do you know what? Right now, it's the season ticket holders. The season ticket holders, we need you more than anything right now, because you lot are guys that are there every week without foul. And you're the guys that we need, especially with the people that can't get there, to be pushing this protest forward. Like today at the stadium, that's a start. But without your help, we can't move forward. We can't do anything. And we need you guys on side as much as what we can, because it's all right that everyone wants all these big channels to go out there and spread the message. But without the season ticket holders, we can't do anything. There's only so much we can do. Them guys are going every week and in the stadium. And I've said this from day dot. The season ticket holders can do so much for the rest of this fan base. And as long as we can get the message to those guys and girls, that's where we can get this. So, because all of us, a lot of us, you've got TJ's in the US, I don't go every week, Crackers is in Spain, and Ricky goes here and there. But we're already a little bit of that cog. So as long as, season ticket holders are out there and can make that change, they're our voice and they're the people we need to get together and make sure that they're the ones every week in that stadium making it uncomfortable for our board and that chairman.
Yeah. Miles, thank you so much and well said. Look, we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio here. We have got over 17,000 of you that are watching the show live. Thanks so much, as always, for the incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. As we've actually said throughout this show, we want you to like and share this to a wide range Spurs audience so people understand and can try and have, for those that maybe are unaware, just the level of frustration that there is right now in this fan base. And the one thing that we are 100% absolutely united behind is now firmly is the time for change. I speak for me when I say this. We've come to a point where it is Levy out, ENIC out. Daniel Levy has, in my opinion, now got a role that is untenable from carrying on. And I can't see a way in which we can go forward, not under only his stewardship as a chairman, but under this hierarchy from the continual errors. And I will make that point just to be very, very clear that we stand nearly 27 days into a transfer window, 27 for our listeners and audio, and they have sat on their hands and just brought in simply a alternative goalkeeper that was brought forward from the previous summer. And like many out there that are disillusioned, they're upset, they're angry, they're frustrated. We're watching, I think, as I've said many times, for many out there that are of a younger generation, the demise of our football club. And it is absolutely heartbreaking. Look, we have to turn to where we are on Ange Postecoglou, which we appreciate on that situation can at any point change. And we'll make that very, very clear. And I have to say this at the top of Ange Postecoglou when we discuss him as a person, that he has been, in my opinion, let down by the ownership during the worst injury crisis in our most modern recent history. Whether you put Ange Postecoglou in that for the reason of our injury crisis is completely down to you. However, he has had far too many poor results during his tenure, and the damage is done. Everyone is responsible. ENIC, Daniel Levy have once again completely and utterly failed yet another manager that's taken on the role as either head coach or manager of this football club. And it is quite simply unacceptable in terms of Tottenham's form. And there may be a sense you can get rid of the manager again and again and again, but that culture will continue. But at the same time, Tottenham have to be and need to be picking up points. And we are not doing that right now in the Premier League. And I understand that, for some out there, it runs deeper than Daniel Levy and the deficiencies in terms of the recruitment, the squad not being deep enough, strong enough characters. Yes, you can argue that. Is it the mindset that we just keep on for some out there wanting to change the manager every 12, 18 months? I've read you during this show where we are in terms of the form, the stats. It's not pretty at the moment. And what I will say to many out there, and again, this is like an eye test feeling of where you are under Ange, is that we saw many things in the early season under his stewardship, his management of the team. And that was, of course, when he had more players available and fit to him. But I think what you can't get away from is that, our build-up patterns, that intense, smart pressing, our ability to press through the lines of play, just seem non-existent right now. And they maybe would seem non-existent when you've got 12, 13, 14 players fit. I just don't see a structured team. Everyone just seems they're playing off the cuff. The whole squad is absolutely knackered. The injuries are killing us. Again, Ange will put himself in there as well for making decisions that have been maybe wrong, and he's held his hands up for that. But as the Spurs manager and where we are and who we've just been beaten by, I just don't think you can lose to Everton and Leicester back-to-back and just carry on. I mean, look, again, I'll make that point. The issues are far deeper, but when I read you Tottenham's last 7 results in the Premier League at home, our last 7 games where we're on our longest winless home run, I think since 2008, forgive me, it might be even before that. Spurs 1, Ipswich 2, Spurs 1, Fulham 1, Spurs 3, Chelsea 4, Spurs 3, Liverpool 6, Spurs 2, Wolves 2, Spurs 1, Newcastle 2, and the latest in that episode is Spurs 1, Leicester 2. We currently sit in terms of that Premier League table, just to be clear, having played 24 Premier League games, right, just to be clear, and we've only, in that time, got 23 points played. I say 23
We've
games.
lost.
Sorry.
We've lost 21 points from winning positions.
Yep.
21
Thrown away
points.
21 points.
The
I must just forgive
highest
you on
in the
that. I
league.
think I said, just to be clear, 23 games played, 24 points taken. So we're taking only just over a point a game, which is absolutely terrible right now. They've gained 1 point for a possible 21 in the last 7 Premier League games. I mean, TJ, I'll come to you because you have been such an absolutely massive fan of Ange Postecoglou. I think it's fair to say that even up until this point, you've wanted it to work. You've been behind him despite the injury crisis that he finds right now. Can he turn this around? Can he turn this around when players are back?
Not at the moment because he's only got 13 fit players.
But can he turn this around when those players come back, T? That's the question what many want to know. Do you still believe Ange Postecoglou is the right man for Tottenham to get Tottenham out of where Tottenham are right now?
My honest opinion, Rick, is that, and it's a bit of a crap answer, unfortunately, is maybe, again, like I still think it's impossible to judge him because we just haven't seen him play with the team that he wants to play with. And again, people can say that, he's overtrained people, he's caused injuries, he hasn't rotated enough. And I think some of that is fair and some of that isn't. But in all honesty, Cracker said earlier, I do think some of it has been bad luck, to have this many injuries to key starting personnel would hurt anybody. And so could it work when if he has a fully fit squad? Maybe. I haven't seen enough of this manager with the players that he wants, playing the system that he wants. I just haven't seen enough of it. And so I do think his position is becoming untenable. And I said that after the Everton defeat. And so who knows? What I do know is that if we sack him again now, Levy wins. And so I'm kind of stuck. Do I want to bring somebody else in who could potentially do a better job with the squad of fit players that we do have, but then allow Levy and the board to go, well, we're just going to throw somebody else under the bus? I don't know if he's the guy for us, but I do know that he and we need new players. Where are they? Like, where are the recruits? What are we, January 26? One goalkeeper through the door. We need more players. Is he the guy? I couldn't tell you. At this point, probably not. But who is the guy? And to Marlon's point, who wants to come? Who wants to come to Tottenham and work with this board? We're in a real quandary, guys. We really are.
I've said before on this point that, look, I think the role now that is the position as Tottenham manager, Tottenham head coach, just in my opinion, just to be clear when I say this, is no longer a position where you can succeed anymore. I don't think it's possible to have any type of relative success being the Tottenham manager when you are pretty much having one hand tied behind your back. You have to get the absolute most out of a very limited young squad that is always being built for the future rather than the now. And to qualify your point on there, TJ, I think nobody could come to Tottenham and have success. And many would argue the one occasion in the last 7, 8, 9 years they felt some form of a connection where they really, truly felt the club had an ounce of ambition in terms of on the football pitch was under Mauricio Pochettino's tenure, where I think they would safely say that we saw a progression when it came to players being coached.
And we didn't back him. And we didn't back him. The famous speech about the house and the furniture, we didn't back him. We didn't sign a single player. Yeah. He got us to the Champions League final. And again, we've talked about this before on the show, Rick. Like, look at that squad. Who have we upgraded? Like, who are we bringing in? And then, of course, I posted it again earlier today, the Conte speech. Now, and again, for clarity, like what he was saying, Conte said the situation goes, the owners, what he says, they always look to disrupt the manager or look to the players. But the owners, the situation is always the same. And he says they hide. He called them out, and of course, he got fired. And so, and like Conte is one of the greatest ever, whether you like his brand of football, whether you don't like his brand of football, he's successful. And so we can see what it is. Pochettino, of course, he was the greatest man. Like we hold him in our hearts. Yeah. They didn't back him. And he's performing and getting us to the Champions League, but we're never making more money, never more successful. And he didn't get backed. Who has a chance?
But I need to ask this, Tej, for the show itself. Would you sack Ange Postecoglou tonight, tomorrow? Would he have another game in your opinion, given our form right now? Yes or no?
I wouldn't sack him before the Cups. No, I wouldn't. Definitely wouldn't sack him before the Liverpool game. No.
Okay. Miles, let me come over to you in regards to where we are, in your opinion, under Ange Postecoglou. And just to be clear, those cup games for Spurs start Thursday, the 6th of February. That second leg away to Liverpool. And they've got the FA Cup tie against Aston Villa away Saturday, the 8th of February. Just to be very clear on those dates. Look, we've mentioned about where we are and where we find ourselves in terms of that league table. It isn't pretty at all. You know, many won't get away from that. It's hard to even bear and look at it, right, let alone try and comprehend it. I said, when I see Spurs 15th in the Premier League table, the only time they should be 15th in the Premier League table is when we're seeing it alphabetically at the start of the season. We should never see Tottenham at 15th in the Premier League beyond that point. But we have only taken, just to be clear, 5 points out of the last 33. We've run just 1-11, as I've mentioned. You know, only Southampton, they've had fewer points than the 5 taken by Spurs during that run. We've now lost 13 league games in a row. Not that bad. Not 13 in a row, just to be clear. 13 across the campaign. I don't want to kill us any further. Sorry to kill the audience off there. 13 games so far. Since that win away against Man City, if you were to judge the table from that moment, Tottenham would be in the bottom 3. Miles, where are we on Ange Postecoglou? Would you sack him tonight? And if we do sack him tonight, if you did want to sack him, what would the alternative plan be? Because right now we're not winning games of football. And I would just say, I mean, I don't think it would be down to Ryan Mason to take charge. You're probably looking at Matty Wells to come in and hold things afloat, because I don't think this club have got a plan. Listen, let's see if they prove us wrong. I don't think they've got a plan. I don't think they've got an alternative. What would you do, Miles? Would you sack Ange Postecoglou?
Yeah, no, look, I gave up after the Arsenal game. From what I saw in the second half, there's a point. Look, if the team had come out in that second half against Arsenal and were playing passes together, he went out all attacking, but they were so poor. And considering we just came from Tamworth where we were poor again, and then we're poor against Everton, I'm surprised he survived after Everton. I think if we didn't show that second half showing that we did, I think he would have gone. And then today, you can't. That's 2 teams that are around you who are near the bottom. It's becoming a serious, serious problem. And for me, again, let's go back to last season. When he had injuries, everyone used that as an excuse. Again, we're getting the same excuse this year, and we need to see him with his proper team. Well, if I said to you guys now, next season, do you think Ange will have no injuries? You're all going to go, well, looking at the last 2 seasons worth of data, probably not. He's probably going to have injuries at some point. And it's, again, Ange won't be able to cope, and we'll be talking about exactly the same thing. And that's the biggest issue right now is, do I see Ange as a long-term? No. So what I would do right now, Ricky, I'd probably be picking up the phone to Redknapp and Hoddle and going, please come and save us for 6 months. Please come work together. Come do something. Just get me out of this mess. Because tactically for me, again, it was that second goal that really, really ticked me off today. And it was because it's the same goal I keep seeing week in, week out. That midfield is a big gap between the midfield and the defence. And it's not being worked on. Yes, Sarr can't give enough. Benson Cole's left on his own. It's happening. And if I take you back to other games, it's probably the exact same thing. When Basuma lost the ball against Arsenal, there's a big gap in midfield again. So for me, Ange's time is up. Let's not just beat around the bush anymore. Unfortunately, it's not going to work out for him at Tottenham Hotspur. But I'm going to say this to Ange. Ange, don't worry. Just look at what Nuno's doing now. Look at what Conte's doing now. And look at what Mourinho's doing now. And look what Pochettino's doing now. It's not you. It is Spurs. But right now, this fit and this club is not for you. You will go somewhere else and probably be quite successful. You could actually do quite well. Your football will work somewhere else. But as for Tottenham Hotspur, this is not the place for you right now. And if we do keep him, we're going on a look. We'll lose. We'll probably end up losing to Brentford next week. The Liverpool game won't look pretty.
We've got Elfsborg on Thursday. We can't get away from Elfsborg on Thursday.
And Elfsborg on Thursday. With the Elfsborg one, is I'm kind of looking at going, it'll be pretty much how what we saw last Thursday. Unfortunately, there are teams in the Europa League that are probably just slightly better than Southampton, but not better than Leicester. And we can kind of beat them. And Maddison, hopefully, should be playing. So, and there'd be players that he has to play who haven't, where he has to play Austin, because he can't play Reguilon and stuff. It's kind of, he has to play a mishmash team anyway. Yep. So they'll probably go out and
But
do
Mars,
the
I
job.
need to ask you just on that point there, where you're saying that for you, Ange has run his tenureship now in terms
Yeah.
of managing the football club. And just to be clear, you know, he's averaging, and he's obviously lower now, around that 1.09 per game, which, yeah, is quite frankly the worst of any Tottenham manager in these last 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
But who comes in? You're saying that you'd pick up the phones of Glenn Hoddle to Harry Redknapp. I mean, it's funny because Cracks won't mind me saying this, has got a relationship with both of those guys. I'll come on to ask Cracks in a second about those guys. But, you know, is that what your solution would be now?
No. In all seriousness, I would seriously pick up the phone to them sort of managers and go, please come and help me for 6 months.
6 months.
For the 6 months, which I think Harry would just get them playing, get them working, go back to the old school way and see what they can do. Because I personally think with this team and with this squad and way Harry will, you know, a lot of them will probably go out and put on the pitch with 80% and want to play for this manager. If they went to Harry Redknapp or thing, well, with Ange, you're kind of like going, no, I can't do this. And so if they, from what Troy Deeney said the other day on radio, and I thought this is true, I've heard this before. Most football players are never 100% fit when they go onto that football pitch, but they will play through the pain and they'll just get through it, especially when you're winning. When you're losing, you'll start to see what we're seeing now. They'll just drop like flies. And for me, unfortunately, I can't see it getting any better over the next few weeks. And I get TJ's point about the cups, but maybe give it to something. We've got to go to Liverpool. We've got to go to Anfield, a place we never really win.
I mean, look, on this point,
and then we've got Villa
the
as
place,
well.
I mean, look, as fans, we're on the floor right now. The place needs lifting. I mean, Miles, thank you so much on that point. Cracks to come over to you. Look, we've not discussed the game yet. And I can tell everybody that's going to be brief for all of our sakes, I can tell you. I mean, it's probably the only positive about this show. The game will be brief in terms of the review of that. Cracks, Miles says there, Harry Redknapp and Glenn Hoddle, two gentlemen you know very, very well, that I think do have a really fond affection for the football club. I think Glenn has made his thoughts very, very clear on this hierarchy. He went on to the overlap very recently and gave his thoughts of what he thought about Daniel Levy and co. I can't see that being a goer. Harry, bless his heart, I think he's currently, which I think you'll know better than me, I think he's actually managing a non-league side, which to this point, that might be a walk in the park as opposed to coming to Tottenham right now. I mean, look, I have to ask you, Cracks, where you are on Ange, because look, I think you've made it very clear for you that he's not really been your guy for quite a while. I hope you won't mind me saying that. You've also maintained that also at the same time, things are above him that aren't right as well, which is obviously taken us to where we are. But we make that point. Look, it's just such not pretty reading right now. You know, we look at the cast iron facts of 33 points out of a possible 90, 1.09 points per game, which would take us to an average of 41 points per season. That would be our worst finish since relegation in 1977. We're in a bottom three in the form table for the last 90 days. 12 games lost out of 21. 5 points out of a possible 40. We've had 4 points out of Leicester at the start of the season, a draw. Brighton, Palace, Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth, Forest, Wolves. We're on this worst home league run without a win in the same season since the 93-94 season. 2 out of 21. We've obviously lost over half the games. I mean, you know, this 36% win record in the span of 15 months, I just can't see it being... I just don't think it's acceptable. You know, since the start of December, only Southampton have lost more games than Tottenham. Only Southampton have picked up fewer Premier League points than Tottenham. And only Southampton have conceded more Premier League goals than Tottenham. I mean, the stats are telling you that this is... Beep, 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 this isn't going to work. But the problem is, as we've touched upon here, who comes into this basket case? Who walks into this? Because Marlon's right. Slot turned us down. You know, Ange, when he took over the job, was probably, what, the 8th, 9th, 10th choice? This job is no longer attractive anymore. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Well, as much as we know that the overriding and overarching problem is this board, Daniel Levy and the Lewis family now that run this basket case like of a club at the moment. Let's separate one thing. Tottenham Hotspur is the fans, it's the club, it's the heritage, and that will never be tarnished because we, the fans, are the club. So when we speak of Tottenham, what we really mean is Enoch and the Lewis family and the way they do things. And the way they're running our beloved club at the moment, nobody.
You can't even call it running, can you?
No.
What are they running? What are they running?
It's a shit show.
We haven't run in a long time. We've gone backwards. It's not even running. We're going backwards.
The football side of things is a shit show. Everything else, magnificent. You know, boxing, matches and hotels being built and this and that and everything else. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. The heart, the soul and the focus and the passion goes into that. The football's just a whatever afterthought to them, isn't it? It's an inconvenience to them. It is a terrible inconvenience. I'm absolutely certain that if they could sell just the football club but keep the stadium and have somebody own the football club other than them and be sitting tenants in that stadium, they'd do it. They'd do it in a heartbeat. I bet they've even looked at it. This is a board that looked to take Tottenham to Stratford. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So these are the people you're dealing with. They will always be the number one problem. Whoever comes in, whoever the next sticking plaster is over this festering boil, will be just that. And we'll be back here in 18 months to 2 years, maybe 3 years, having this same conversation, because they will be let down ultimately, like all the other 16 managers have. All of them. They will all be let down. They've all been let down, and they will be whilst it continues to be run in this way. But if you look at Ange in isolation, Rick, you know my thoughts on this. I don't think he's got the chops for this job. I really don't, because he's been here 2 years now, and I'm not seeing enough of a progression whilst he tries to build whatever it is he's trying to build. I'm just not seeing it. If we were getting beaten in this current position,
I know you want Mummy sad, so I know the comments are going to pick up on it. Obviously, it feels like 2 years, but it has only been 16 months. But I know the comments the comments will pick up on this kind of thing. So yeah, I know.
It feels like 2 years, but I'm just not seeing a progression. I'm not seeing going a step back to go 2 or 3 forward. I'm just not seeing it. I don't know what Ange Ball is. I just don't. I can't see what he's trying to achieve. Listen, Spurs is a team that's built on sort of brave, to dare is to do football. It's what we all love. It's the heritage of the club. But there's brave and there's like suicidal, which is what this looks like. It's kamikaze, Rick. The football, it's unsustainable. And even when we've had a full squad, we still got beat by Ipswich. I see us get beat at Crystal Palace. For every Man City game and the odd game here, there's a Palace away or an Ipswich at home or a Leicester today. Now, it's a bit difficult to throw Leicester into that mix because of the injuries that we've got. But even at full strength, I've just not seen anything sustained. It's Baywatch 1 week, Crime Watch the next week. You can't build anything off of that up and down form. And then when he does lose and somebody has something to say to him from the stands, all right, you could say, well, people shouldn't be shouting abuse. No, they shouldn't. But since time immemorial, football fans have had a potty mouth on them and spoken out of turn and emotionally at the end of games. And he's reacting to that. He's flying off the handle at interviewers that are asking like perfectly reasonable questions. I just don't see him having the chops for this. So look, we need to bring in at this club, whilst it's being run the way it is, badly and poorly, we need to bring somebody in that can operate within those restrictions, that can take the chicken shit and turn it into chicken soup, which is what Redknapp done to a degree, which Poch done to a degree, which Martin Jol done to a degree. They need to be able to get something out of this current squad, the management of it with injuries and training and within games and the pragmatism. I'm just not seeing it with him, Rick. And it's a shame, because when he speaks about us, you can tell he cares. I said this the other week on X. He cares. He does really care. He's not a Conte, I'm just going to set fire to everything and watch it burn. He genuinely does care. But, a lot of people can care about things, but it doesn't mean that you're really you're good at it. So I don't know, Rick. I mean, people were saying, what about Iriola? What about your man at Fulham, Silva and Thomas Frank and would you come to this football club at the moment? Would you come and work for ENIC? I mean, if you looked at the club itself, I mean, there's a lot of people that would come. But like I said earlier, this current board's holding that hostage. I wouldn't go and work for them. Just no chance. Absolutely no chance. So I don't know, Rick. Sometimes, we offer opinions on here, but sometimes, how about, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I know it isn't Ange. I know it's not Ange, but I don't know who it is going forward. It really is a mess. People are going to turn this down. It's a poison chalice, Rick. This is where they've taken the club to. I think Ange is a one-legged man. I think he's a one-legged manager, and ENIC have brought him into an arse-kicking competition. He's got no chance. He's got absolutely no chance, because even though I don't think he's the right man for the job, okay, at least let him foul, at least let him go down in flames and give him every fire extinguisher that you've got. And we haven't even done that. At least allow him to foul and turn around and think to yourself, okay, he got given every chance. He got given the tools that he needed. But we're not even doing that. We're not even doing that. So, this isn't just one single failure point here. There's so many things that are feeding into the failure of this club from top to bottom. But all I know is he's not the man for this job. I really don't.
Well, look, conscious of time, strike off the bingo cards for those that have still got bingo cards at this point. I don't blame you if you've gone to say a bit more pragmatic right now, like Connect 4 or any other game out there, given what we are right now. Look, there's 20,000 of you that are watching the show live. Look, thank you so much for all your incredible support for the show. And I'll reiterate what I've said for those that have missed it at the initial point. I've talked about ENIC and throughout this, that I will make that point again for those that haven't heard me, that I think we've come to a point as a fan base that we need and we have to seek change. And that, as I've mentioned this throughout, conversations now need to be had with regards to how we are going to try and in the most dynamic way remove ENIC and Levy from what they are doing to our football club. And I think we've made this point throughout this show that what we're witnessing right now, it feels like the demise of this football club. And all I know is that our wonderful fans that travel home and away and abroad deserve so much better than what we are seeing right now. They truly, truly do. A reminder for those out there that are away and are looking to get away from this football club for a few days. I don't blame you if you need a holiday. We are directly sponsored by NordVPN. They're our leading sponsor and last one on Spurs. They have been for a very, very long time. For those that need a break away from this football club, rather than permanently for a few days, go and check out Nord. Obviously, they're great in terms of when it comes to booking a holiday, which I think we all could probably do right now. When it comes to the fact of, your favourite TV shows away from football and away from sport, go and obviously have a look over there and a gander over there. Like I say, we've got that link in the comments and discount code below, nordvpn.com/LWOS. And we've come to an hour and a half in the show.
Going on holiday, Rick. I'd love to go somewhere warm. That would be really lovely. The problem is wherever you go, they follow you. So you've got no escape. Right. You left the country, you went to Lanzarote, and they're still on your back, and you can't get rid of Rick,
them.
I'm 2,000 miles away, and it still don't feel far enough away at the moment. Let me tell you.
Oh man, I tell you. Guys, thank you so much for all the love out there. Honestly, it's a difficult show. And I have to say this again, I said it at the top of the show, this is meant to be fun. Doesn't feel like fun. I feel like we're getting out a lot of where we're feeling right now. But I tell you, I mean, I just don't know what is happening to this football club that we all love and adore and play such a huge part in our lives. And I will say that, I know for some, football is absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. For some, it has its place in life, but for some, this is their everything. This is the first thing they think about when they wake up in the morning. It's the last they go to bed at thinking right now. And I think you can totally understand why there is such a disillusion right now when people look at this football club and think, what is happening to the club I love? For many that can't understand that. Look, before we get into the game itself, Ange Postecoglou did speak to media after the game, and we'll let you know if anything changes during this show. And it's not the first time I've said on last one on Spurs. I'm talking about the current Tottenham manager, and they end up being the previous Tottenham manager. So I'll make that very, very clear. Ange said on the game against Leicester, just to be clear, that I think for the most part, we controlled the game. We certainly created enough chances to win the game. With that 5 minute spell after half-time, we were punished. But either side of that, there was enough for us to win it. The players are giving everything. From my perspective, I can't get away from the fact that this group of players are trying as hard as they possibly can to turn around our fortunes. It doesn't really come into my consciousness about trying to convince people about our league position improving. I've been around long enough to know that some will just judge on where we are at the moment, and some will maybe look at some other angles in regards to where we're at, with regards to the injuries. If people want to put context, they can do. There are probably at least two who shouldn't have been out there. They were just desperate to try and turn our fortunes around. Hopefully, over the next 10 days, 2 weeks, we should get some significant players back, and it'll give them a boost as to where we need and where, obviously, I see this going. We have still got some fantastic opportunities this season to make an impact, of course, in the second half of the season, and I'm sure that will happen. He was asked to explain why Richarlison left the pitch to what was a huge amount of boos that, obviously, Richie left the pitch to, and that was, obviously, the fact of taking him off. He said, look, he was feeling his groin. He should have come off at half-time, but I wanted to give him a further 10 minutes. I could see he was running. I could see he wasn't running well, so that's why I took him off. And was asked over the next 10 days to 2 weeks if any other players will be back. He said, look, who knows? I reckon there is a fair chunk that will maybe not be back. But when you are the manager of a football club, you can be very vulnerable and isolated. I don't feel that here. I feel this group of players are giving absolutely everything to the club. I have a group of staff that is really committed, and I'm really focused on that as an individual. And I can see in training the guys who are working their way back. And just to be clear, we have seen Romero and Van der Ven working their way back in training. That's going to give everybody a lift. As I keep on saying, there is a fantastic opportunity this season to really make an impact. But in terms of your question, I can't say anything is going to change that I need in terms of the next few days and even in the morning. He was asked in relation to the chanting about Daniel Levy rather than him personally. And he said, look, certainly when I came into the football club, I wanted to try and take on the role as unifying the club and create an environment here where we're all focused on one thing. Obviously, that hasn't worked out. It's understandable, like you said. The fans are not happy with our current situation. It's a difficult one to navigate because we need them right now, especially at home to create an atmosphere. It wasn't that long ago. Liverpool were here. It was a great night. Everyone is focused on one thing. And like I said, that one thing I keep on saying is important to acknowledge. The players are giving everything for the club. I think that's something that needs to be acknowledged by everybody. And was asked by the fact that he couldn't even name a full bench for the game, which doesn't, if anything, cry it to the board of just how much he needs help. The players need help. The fans, us, God, we need help. And I said, look, I've said all along, and I've said that the club are working really hard. This is where we're annoyed fans when you hear this. Working really hard to alleviate some of those problems because Sarr shouldn't have started. He wasn't fit. The players are going out there and are giving absolutely everything they can because we can't call off games. We've got another game in 3 days and these players have to front up for it. The injury situation will not ease, and I'm confident in time we will get players back. Even one more player coming in just in the short term might give us an opportunity, might give us a lift. It's a difficult next 10 days to navigate, 2 weeks, of what's been a really hard slog for these players. When he was pushed further about if he speaks to Daniel Levy on a regular basis, he confirmed Ange Postecoglou that he doesn't speak to Daniel on a regular basis. He lets me get on with it. During this January period, there's been regular contact, but that's not what I'm talking about. All I'm saying is I come to the club and I feel like everyone, all the players and the staff are in the belief of what we're trying to do. I don't feel like I'm convincing people in this moment about what we're doing and what we're trying to do. I feel like people can see that. That's where I get the solace to say, okay, I still believe we can. I still think, as I've said, there's an opportunity here. I really believe in this group of players. Even when I've asked them, some of those performances were outstanding considering what these players are having to go to. Ultimately, we've lost another game of football and the focus is on that. In some respects, that's in our hands. In at least 2 competitions, we're in good shape to make an impact. And I still think things can turn around pretty quickly. A final question pushed to Ange was, you're saying the players are giving everything, but surely they're giving everything for you. He said, look, I felt all on the players are still very committed to what we're doing. That's the most important thing to me. I firmly believe, and I really believe, this is as low as we've been so far this year. But I still think in these next 3 months, I can turn this around. Right now, it's very hard to visualize that when the current circumstances are what we're in at the moment. You just have to look at our absentees. They'll all be back in the next 2 to 3 months. Even Madder's missing. He was so good the other night. All these little things are not going to allow us to get any momentum. And I'm sure will change. And when they change, I'm really confident we can make an impact. So sorry, that was a long lot of information there. That was Ange Postecoglou's presser. And look,
Rick, it's interesting that he says he doesn't speak to Levy regularly. Maybe if he stuck a hard hat on and went in there with a pile of bricks, he might actually like get an audience with dear leader, mightn't he? Or if he went in there offering Beyonce and Taylor Swift in a boxing match or something, he might garner his attention. But chairman's not sort of talking to his manager. What? Okay, I get that there's layers of management in between that take care of that, but
yet they're trying really hard to bring recruits in, Crackers.
Surely, with
like,
the way
the Marlon's point where Levy always trips himself up, like they're saying, "Oh, we're working really hard to bring in players," and then the manager goes and says, "We don't really speak." I mean,
I'd say 27 days into the transfer window. What can I say? I think it's no other words. Look,
what are we supposed to believe here? And we're trying to believe in something. I mean, listen, like I said earlier, let's believe in supporting the fan base, supporting each other, and getting behind this movement where we can make change. Again, just looking at that poster that you've been showing throughout the show, Rick. Look, if it says 24 years and now it's 17 managers and 1 trophy, does that help us? Does that hurt us? I don't know. I don't have the answer. None of us do. We're really hurting right now, bleeding right now. Positives that I don't know if this is the right time, Rick, to talk about.
We'll come. I'll promise you. Yeah, on that point you're mentioning, T. Let me come to you in a second on that, because you can tell me what you feel on that point. Look, for the balance of time, let's just fly through that team as to what was out, and I'll go to T on the points he's looking to make there. Look, he made 2 changes, and obviously only had 48 hours to try and recover that tiny squad, as Ali reported there from Football London, the wonderful Ali Gold. Look, in terms of situations around the squad at the moment, Kinsky came back in between the 6 for Brandon Austin. Pat Mattasar was in for James Maddison, who missed out entirely after a late decision on his fitness. And Ange said on that decision of Maddison's missing out, he's still a bit sore from the other night. He took a fair bit out of the group. He just wasn't 100%, so he misses out. He was pushed on that. He said, look, nothing more than that in terms of seriousness. We hope not. Hopefully, he should be right for next week. Ibasuma was back on the bench. That only had 8 players on it, which kind of shows you just the severity of where we are right now in terms of that squad, that Andy's having to only be able to play 8 players on the bench. It's got to put 8 players on the bench, I'd say. Look, understandably, we looked knackered in the early period. Leicester enjoyed a lot of possession. We had a Sarr shot at goal. Comfortable for the goalkeeper to save. We had Porro forcing the goalkeeper of a flying save. Archie Gray, I mean, look, one of probably the shining lights of this season, was one of our brightest moments, driving to force a block from Ayew. Bentancur at that point was trying to tell everyone to calm down, but, I think there were so many tired and sloppy passes out there. We had an opportunity for Sonny that went close, but his shot was saved by the goalkeeper. He palmed it wide at the last moment. And then there was those chances beginning of we want Levy out after just 2 minutes during the game, belted out by the south stand. And the game really was, let's be honest about it, 2 struggling teams, one short on quality, the other short on freshness. And, although Spurs came close on a number of occasions, they did eventually take the lead. Richarlison steering Spurs in front of a header. He threw himself at a great Pedro Porro cross. He marks his first big start of the season with a well-taken header from 5 yards. And we mentioned that point, not the highest of quality, but Spurs go in front. Pedro Porro, I agree with what Tej said to come over in a second there. Pedro Porro, I think on the balance of the game, didn't have a great game because he was at fault for both goals, but he has now got more goal contributions, 23, than any other defender since his Premier League debut in this, obviously, campaign so far. Again, you look at opportunities where there was opportunity to put players in. Dragerson put Porro down the right-hand side. He fired it into the side netting. Many might have felt that was quite a selfish act. We end the half with Dragusin making more key passes than anybody else. And there was that feeling going into half-time that you could see the players were tiring. You could see that fatigue was kicking in. And it was at that point, trying to be clever, careful in terms of the management of players. He's actually admitted Sarr shouldn't have played. I mean, TJ, I know you said they're coming over to you. You had a couple of positives. Let's bring them in now before we have to go back to, unfortunately, some more negatives during this show.
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of people have sang the praises of Bergvall and Gray. But let's do it again. And not only that they were outstanding again today and really positive and really brave. Crackers talked a lot earlier about courage and bravery, and these boys are lacking in neither of those qualities. And for such young lads, I think that we should continue to heap praise on their shoulders. Here's another thing as well, gang, not to kind of already be thinking about the future, but look, this season, as far as the league goes, if we survive, and I think we will, that's going to be the best we can hope for in the league. So looking forward to next season for kids like Archie Gray, for Lucas Bergvall, and for Mikey Moore to have had this many minutes and this many opportunities, and to play and to have played this much under tremendous pressure and in an almost period of unprecedented adversity. My goodness, they have been forged in the crucible of hell. So when we do get them back with a fit team next season, hoping beyond hope that our quality players will choose to stay at Tottenham, these boys are going to be something to really build on for a very, very exciting future for this football club, if we can show that we can match their ambition, match their talent, match their skill, and bring in some other players of a similar ilk. Because believe me, the lessons they would have learned this season, absolutely invaluable. And I would almost submit you couldn't learn them anywhere else.
No.
Tottenham this season is the perfect training ground for players like this, because it has been quite so horrific. So there's a few positives for us, guys. Not wishing to, just pin a kind of silver lining to a cloud. We're all aware of how things are terrible right now, but these boys are going from strength to strength to strength, and moving forward, they'll get even better. So there's something for us to hang on to, Tottenham fans.
I think, TJ, to come off the back of that, and I think, again, we make it clear. I said this obviously in the last few shades, and sorry to sound like a broken record, that whilst those players are going to learn a lot through this adversity, and I mean this in purely football in terms as football fans, I think it's absolutely killing us in the process, but they will learn a lot, most certainly, throughout this. Miles, it's come to you for Leicester start to the second half, which inevitably ends up with Jamie Vardy putting the ball in the back of the net. That's just what Jamie Vardy does against Tottenham. And I know you picked up on the fact of just your concern. I think it was over both the first and the second goal, you had your concerns over. But this first goal from Jamie Vardy at season level, it's right at the start of the second half. De Cordova-Reid gets behind Porro, the cross evades everyone, including Kinsky, who just simply doesn't deal with it, falls into Vardy's path, who at the second attempt puts the ball in the back of the net. And you know what? Again, you've said it yourself. We've conceded so many goals like this from so many positions in the Premier League and since so many teams that it's just so hard to see a way forward right now. And, it's disastrous and it's embarrassing from Tottenham in terms of the way in which we've defended that. And to make matters worse, Vardy's pointing to his Premier League badge to indicate one title versus Spurs is none as he did on the opening day of the season. A horrific goal to concede, Miles, for the equaliser.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to Romero, because at the beginning of the season, everyone was calling for him to be dropped, saying it was his fault for the mistakes. Maybe it was because of the way we played, and maybe Porro is at fault for some of what's going on, because he's losing the ball in certain positions, which is causing, now that people can see, Dragoshin's getting caught out a lot as well with it. But look, that first goal comes from a poor. Again, it reminded me of when we lost the ball against Arsenal. I can't remember if it was Porro or Bentancur losing it high up the pitch. Then, as you say, Reid gets behind, and Kinsky, for me, I don't know what he's doing there. I don't know how he misses it. It is a goalkeeper error as well on top. I felt sorry for Ben Davies and Archie Gray in that point. And I've been quite dismissive of Archie Gray playing left back at the beginning of the season. But not beginning around December time, because I said he's positioned, but this had nothing on him. It was all to do with our senior players. And this is what the problem is at the moment. Our senior players are just letting us down week in, week out on these defensive situations. And they're just not in the right positions. And now, do I blame the players or do I blame Ange? It's got to be a catalogue of both, because they either don't know what they're doing or they're just doing tired things because they're just going out there playing football and not actually realising anything what they're doing is going forward. And that goal just summed up everything that was wrong with Spurs today.
Yeah.
Not even today, for the last few weeks, everything. So I can't even go any more on that, because just every time I speak about it, just
I know,
more and more angry.
I know, mate. I know it's hard. I know, which for all our sakes, I said we're going to try and get this show done. We're an hour and 47 in. We've got to try and get this show done for all of our own sakes, because I dread to think when we're going to be back here discussing the next. You know what? Cracks, get that poster at the ready. What can I say again, mate? You know, I love you very much, but this is killing us. Look, of course, Leicester turned the game on its head in the space of 4 minutes. And I think the way in which Tottenham give away the ball so sloppy again, unfortunately, it's Porro, poor pass on Porro. Khannouss is given the ball, breaks up the pitch. I mean, this is not really justification for our listeners on audio. We're showing a still where Khannouss has got the ball. This doesn't really do it justice, because of just how far he's been able to carry the ball. Players are backing off. He's afforded massive room in midfield, bursting forward, fires a shot into the corner. We make that point, Porro giving away the ball twice for both goals. It is, as I mentioned there, embarrassing really, and such a rapid turnaround that in the space of 4 minutes, Tottenham have absolutely capitulated. It's not good enough as usual. And Leicester have their second goal and have turned the game on its head. And I mean, look, at that point, there's a fresh volley of "We want Levy out," followed by "Daniel Levy, get out of our football club." Leicester fans are responding back by saying, "How much shit must you be? We're winning away." And I think, you know what? Dr. Tottenham has really caught on now to the mainstream media about if you're going on a bad run, which again, I'll bring it to the fact Leicester were winless in 7 before this game. Lost all 7, can I just add. They won 1 away game all season, and here's the Tottenham popping up. I mean, we know it goes deeper than that of what's going on at the football club right now with the injuries, but Cracks, 4 minutes of just absolute madness. There's no one there trying to calm things down. There's no leader. There's no authority. There's no guidance from the touchline. There's not at any point in those 4 minutes a break up a play with Ange Postecoglou who just calls the players over and says, keep calm, keep your heads, and just let's try and calm things down. There's nothing of that. Within 4 minutes, we've gone from 1-0 up to 2-1 down. And it has happened, Cracks, far too many occasions, taking out the injury crisis.
Yep, it does, Rick. Once we get a bang on the chin, that's it. We cannot clear our heads, can we? That first one goes in and we can't suck it up, try and go, okay, let's 1-1, we'll go again, just keep things tight and then we'll build from now. But there's no leaders in that team, Rick. There's nobody out there to get round the youngsters and tell them, we need to do this, tighten up, just be smart for 10 minutes now. They're going to come at us. We'll build and we'll go again. One goes in, the second one goes in. We just cannot clear our heads. And, you know, this is another thing with Daniel Levy as well. Dr. Tottenham, Spursy, these things have entered the vernacular under his watch, you know. It's a countrywide thing, probably a worldwide thing now, that to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory is known as Spursy. That's on your watch, Daniel Levy. You have overseen the running of a club where that has become a thing. These things don't get manufactured and made. They're born out of something building and becoming a thing, and that's on his watch. He'll be known as the manager or the chairman and the owner that was the reason that snatching defeat from the jaws of victory became known as Spursy. It's as simple as that, and that's exactly what it was today, because there's no leaders out there. There's no clear in our head. And they've done that. The guys from View from the Lane podcast have said that Dr. Tottenham is now so senior, he's known as Mr. Tottenham, because he's become like a surgeon, a senior surgeon. He's gone from doctor to like a senior consultant, so now he must be addressed as Mr. Tottenham. I mean, it's just like this is where we are. This is all on this board's watch, that they're not bringing in the caliber of player to get round, some of the younger players and just calm some heads and clear the heads and go, okay, let's see where we are. And we just need 5 minutes, little bit. No, boom, 4 minutes, 2-1 down. and then we're bang up against it. Really, really bang up against it. And you've got tired minds, tired limbs from this small, like thin gruel squad that we've been left with, trying to dig themselves out of the hole that they've gone into. It's Rick, it's, you know, and this will continue to happen until such time as we start getting serious as a football club. But I can't see that coming anytime soon.
Not under this ownership. Not under this ownership. Look, in terms of the rest of that game, how it played out, Mikey Moore, Sergio Reguilon coming on for Richarlison, who we made that point. I think he was only going to get that amount of game time, really. There was big boos in the stadium, loud boos for Richarlison substitution, but you know he's probably going to play again on Thursdays against Elfsborg as things stand. And yeah, I mean, I can't sit here and not understand or try and sympathise with Tottenham's fans' frustration right now. You know, I can understand why people were booing in the moment because Richarlison was probably the only one out there that offered a goal input, really. So what are you going to do? They brought him off. Charles really few and far between after that. I mean, they did hit the bar with a free kick from Pedro Porro, who'd done well to obviously get it on target. I mean, I think what will really frustrate fans is that Jacob Stolicic, who was the Leicester goalkeeper, he had the ball in his hands for at 1.19 seconds. And I think the one thing that really frustrates fans out there is how that is always seems to be overlooked. You never really get that time back at the end. I think Spurs got, 7-8 minutes added on. But look, in those 7-8 minutes, did they really look like going to score? Probably not. You know, again, that second half. It's been really the culmination of where we are right now. We haven't got enough on the field. And again, goes back to that point. If you decided you were going to back Ange, well, why not back in with the players? I don't know the thinking. I don't know any methodology anymore. I try and think about Tottenham. I just get confused. I don't really know what is anything anymore. I don't know the plan. I don't know the structure. I don't know anything anymore. All I know is that as fans, this is absolutely breaking our hearts, and it's the club that we love so dear, close to our heart. I mean, I will just say again, I think the Premier needs to clamp down on that time wasting, because I'll make that point. 7 minutes added on the end could have very clearly double that, really. 14 minutes. Will Lancashire comes on for the final minutes. I mean, anything that Will Lancashire, I know we had this discussion a lot off air with Will. I mean, the guy was good enough to start a Galatasaray and score. I mean, he's given a few minutes before the end there. He's the only natural goal striker we've got as an alternative. Why is he not getting more minutes? And look, I just will leave it on this point as we look to close. You know, regardless whether after this show, Ange goes, Ange Postecoglou stays, whatever the outcome or the verdict of that manager will be, Tottenham need signings, and they need signs of quality in the final days of the window. And the question is now, are the board going to continue to watch this club drown, or will they finally do something very, very late on to try and help Ange Postecoglou somehow swim his way out of this? The all eyes are on Daniel Levy, they're on Johan Lang, and they're on Scott Munn to try and give Ange Postecoglou, if he's going to be the manager, the help that he truly, truly needs. And Johan Langer and of course, Scott Munn were present at the game. Could argue they're trying to hide away. They weren't. Daniel Levy was at the game, just to be very, very clear, and heard and saw everything that happened during that stadium. And again, just to kind of really ram home the plight of where we're at, which again sums up this season where Tottenham are on. Tottenham still haven't got as many points this season as they got in the first 10 games of last season. I'll let that try and sink in. Tottenham still haven't got as many points this season as they have got in the final 10 games of last season. What can I say? I want to say again to our watching audience, over nearly 22,000 of you that are watching the show live. I mean, it's quite incomprehensible, unbelievable numbers for a show that we really shouldn't want to or need to be doing about the plight of this football club. But I'm going to say for the very last time on this show, for all of you that are watching this show live right now, I implore you, I encourage you, please to like and subscribe to the show. We want to get this out to a wide Spurs audience and out to a wide of the national media as well, who understand how we feel as Tottenham fans. We implore you to keep liking and subscribing and sharing the show to as many of the Spurs fans out there. I want to say a massive thank you to these wonderful esteemed gentlemen that have helped me steer a ship that, quite frankly, I can say I'm proud to steer with these wonderful human beings that give up so much of their time to sacrifice for this show. Miles, thank you so much. I know it's never easy. You've only been in this family for the last 7-8 months. I truly mean it when I say it. We love you very much, mate, and it's lovely to be part of it. You and Ash, You're superstars, and I'm sorry, Matt, I'm putting you through a very difficult time as a Spurs fan. Not only having to watch the games, but to come on here and have to review them. I'm really sorry, mate. I'm really, really sorry.
Don't apologise, Ricky. I chose to be a Spurs fan. You just reached out to me. I would come on, win, lose or draw. You're the man. Don't worry. And look, at the end of the day, no matter what's going on, everyone in the chat, everyone on this panel, everyone that I've interacted with over the last few years, there's one thing we all do. We love Tottenham Hotspur, and that's been the best thing. And let's just get together and stick together. As they say, look, Coys is a thing because of us. Let's get going. Let's make a movement. Let's get our club back.
Miles, lovely words there, and I think many will echo those thoughts. Let's get our club back. And again, I'll reiterate that point. Let's come together. Let's try and get this football club back, and let's take action in the most appropriate way to do so, to try and get this club back. Tej, thank you so much. I know, look, you're a little bit formal down the road then, Miles, and we've shared a wonderful bonding friendship so far. And I know this is not easy for someone that's so positive to have to come on here and have to go through so much negativity about Tottenham that is so dear and close to your heart. I want to say a massive, massive thank you. I'm sure you'll echo those words there. We need to try and get this football club back to where it belongs. And it so does not belong where we are right now, domestic-wise.
No, certainly not. To your point, to Marlon's point, I mean, look, it's a pretty unpleasant place to be right now as a Tottenham fan. But every single time I come on this program, it makes me feel better. I think a lot of the frustration for football fans is that we feel so helpless. We feel that there's nothing that we can do that will affect performances on or off the field. But this show and interacting with the community and with the viewers and the listeners does give us an opportunity to at least speak to each other, to reach out to each other, to hear from people that agree with us, to hear from people that disagree with us. And so we're doing something. It's something active. It's something that isn't quite so passive as sitting there and screaming at your television at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so my thanks to you, Rick, my thanks to the panel, my thanks to the viewers and listeners. And let's unify and come together and understand that there is a larger, huge problem at the club, which we're all trying to get rid of. And let's be united behind a singular cause and see if we can make change. Mother Teresa was asked when she was working with the orphans in Calcutta, why would you take on such a monumental task? What you're doing is merely a drop in the ocean. And she said, it may be a drop in the ocean, but the ocean is made out of drops. One of my favorite quotes from a magnificent woman. So let's remember that. We may just be a drop in the ocean, but the ocean is made out of drops. Thanks for having me, Rick.
Tej, love you very much. Thank you so much. And Cracks, where I bring you into closers here, I will make it very, very clear. I can tell you the Ball do watch these shows. Daniel Levy will watch this show. I'm sure he'll get a copy of it, just to be very, very clear. And I think what has been said tonight, and I'll reiterate this again, is nothing personal. It's our football club. It will always be our football club. Long beyond Daniel Levy and co being here, it will always be our football club. And we will get our Tottenham back. And we're at a point now where we might have to come together and do so in the most appropriate way to do that. But we will get our football club back. And we will one day be back on top. We will one day be winning trophies. We will one day have those great times again. And we will be happy. It doesn't feel like it right now, but I promise every single Tottenham fan out there, we will be happy again at some point. Not right now, we will. Cracks closes on this. It's been a difficult show, but one I think many can see that we are united in wanting and getting change in the right way for every single Tottenham fan out there that bleeds white and blue and wears those Tottenham colours so proud.
No one that gathers around these mics, Rick, has got the answer to this as such, or it's not our faults. It's nobody's in the comments. And, for the thousands of people that comment, there's 1,000 different things that are wrong and 1,000 different ways to fix it. But we all ultimately want to get to the destination of just having a club back that we can be proud of with the way it's been run. We are proud to be Tottenham fans. I'd never not be a Tottenham fan. I just want everybody to be proud to be a part of Tottenham, whatever it is that they do, whether it be a supporter, a player, a manager, or an owner, and that doesn't guarantee you success as such and silverware. But what it does stand for something and give it a go. And if you see everybody in that great big chain all pulling in the same direction, you can't ask for any more, Rick, but not everybody is in that chain at the moment. It doesn't feel like that this club's being run for the benefit of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. So, look, we've called for change tonight and for action and for these people to go, quite rightly. There is people out there like Change for Tottenham that are trying to affect some change and trying to do something about it. So whatever it is that you feel that you can do, then please do that. Make that change. If it means not buying that pie and a pint, then, okay, it's a tenner and you think to yourself, well, that ain't a lot. But a lot of people make a lot of tenors, hell of a lot of tenors. So you hit their bottom line, then they'll start listening to you. Nothing else will. The chanting in the stadium and the banners, of course, but it doesn't hit like hitting them in the pocket. So we need to be doing that side of things, the banners, the chanting, and hitting them in the pocket. That's their kryptonite. That's where it really, really hurts them, Rick. So if you can do something and get behind Change for Tottenham, especially that seem to be wanting to get somewhere, then do that. If everybody comes together on this, then we may just get somewhere. And you know what? In the great words of Roger Daltrey in McVicar, we might come second in this fight, but we'll be the best fucking second you've ever seen, let me tell you. So let's give it a go. Stand for something.
Cracks, thank you so much. I feel like that's pretty much the closing line of this show. We'll give everything we've got and see where it takes us. Look, from the wonderful Marlon over at Spurs Kings, Miles, thank you so much. To the wonderful, brilliant, most eloquent as always, superb TJ Ramini Tej. Thank you so much to the wonderful, the brilliant Richard Cracknell, who has seen relegation and has been through the most difficult times being a Spurs fan. Whatever happens, we will be here no matter what. But it is, as we've said throughout this show, time for change. It is time to take action from myself, from the guys, from this wonderful watching, listening audience. We have been the last word on Spurs. We urge you to please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on, you Spurs.